The world of Runeterra is massive, and its history is just as large. In this series, I'm going to help you learn about its entire history, from the beginning when there was nothing to modern day. So buckle in, hit that subscribe button, and let's get right into it. Not long after Lysandra struck a deal with the Watchers to help conquer the Freljord from the demigods, in exchange for entrance into Runeterra, the sisters would unite their armies and defeat the old gods of the north. Shortly after the defeat of the demigods, the sisters would begin discussing their arrangement with the Watchers. Sorilda and Avarosa deeming their servitude as a fate far worse than death itself. Not only were they in debt to the Watchers, but as time went on, the Freljord would become even more inhospitable. The winds would grow colder and the sky began to darken. As the Freljord became more inhospitable, the sisters would separate, and the mortal iceborn tribes, who had once fought side by side to defeat the demigods, would now begin warring with each other. As the wars raged on, Sorilda and Avarosa would gather both of their armies to march on Lysandra's army, bunkered away in the Frostguard's citadel to resist serving the Watchers that Lysandra had pledged them to. Sorilda and Avarosa's armies would begin sieging the Frostguard citadel, eventually meeting Lysandra and her armies upon the bridge that towered over the Howling Abyss. As the armies began to clash upon the bridge, the sky would grow dark. A frostbitten wind gusted across the bridge. The Watchers began to materialize across the Freljord and Howling Abyss, causing complete chaos across the lands as these horrific, eldritch horrors finally began reaching into the physical realm. Watching the horrors manifest before her, Lysandra began to realize the magnitude of the mistake she had made by striking a deal with the Watchers. In an attempt to protect the land of the Freljord and Runeterra as a whole, Lysandra, in a last-ditch effort, did the unthinkable to stop the Watchers from fully materializing. Sacrificing her sisters and all their armies gathered within the Howling Abyss, she enacted a ritual to entomb the Watchers in true ice, succeeding in imprisoning them halfway between the void and the physical realm. Having successfully trapped the Watchers, Lysandra and her armies would attempt to remove the history of the Frozen Watchers from the world, though the true ice that would defend the Freljord from the void would only be a temporary solution. Lysandra would remain in power secretly, even up until modern day. Many thousands of years after the War of the Three Sisters, movement would start to occur in the most distant eastern islands of Runeterra, bringing all their ancient knowledge and wisdom with them. Settlers from the forgotten lands of the distant east would begin reaching the shores of Shurima and Valoran. This dispersion of mortal humans from the ancient homelands would start the creation of some of the greatest civilizations Runeterra has ever known. A group of humans called the Buru would settle in the Serpent Isles, worshipping and eventually managing to utilize the power of the immensely powerful spirit god of the ocean, Nagakaburus. An enlightened society of educated scholars and philosophers whom dedicated themselves to discovering the mysteries of Runeterra would form on the Blessed Isles, after encountering the nature spirit Maokai, who gifted them with the location of the blessed waters of life due to their respect for the lands and its magic. Ishokan would be built as the capital city of Ishtal in the Shuriman jungle, a hub for those dedicating their lives to mastering elemental magic. In the western deserts, the great nation of Shurima would be founded, eventually leading themselves into a golden age. Even further west, mortals would discover the great Mount Targon. Here, they would create a tribal theocracy centered around the celestial powers that created the mountain, eventually tricking our friend Aurelian's soul into servitude. Not too long after the founding of Shurima, a seaport named Osha Vazan would open, connecting the northern continent of Valoran and its southern sister continent of Shurima. On the southern peninsula of Shurima, under a mage king, the rebellious magocracy of Ikathia would form. This resettling of mortal humans across the lands would stir up many advancements in technologies and magics, as well as trade between the Far East, North, and Southern regions of Runeterra. At the time of the migration, these new settlers were oftentimes far more advanced magically than those of the First Lands or the Freljord, causing future conflicts and even destruction. And that wraps up the third episode of the complete history of Runeterra. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to sharing the next one with you tomorrow. If you enjoyed this, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video, and I will see you then.